I'm excited to be here with you, Allison.
I'm so grateful to be here with you. I love working with you. I love listening to your show. I'm your fan, I'm your friend. And so anything we do together is always magical.
I can't wait. Ditto. I'm a fan. I'm a friend, obviously. Wish we wouldn't have moved, but anyway, maybe I can convince you to move back. But
Everyone's trying. Trust me, you're not the only one. It may happen. We'll see.
But how this conversation is happening, why this is happening, is because I reached out to Allison to ask her to do a talk in my mastermind this year, a talk that she loves, that she feels really confident about, and really is very impactful. And that talk is.
It's about overcoming imposter syndrome. And the reason I wrote it and teach it is because we teach what we most need to learn. And as I've been on this journey of growing my brand and growing my presence and fully becoming who it is I want to be in the world, I realized there were all these misbeliefs that we collectively hold, and some are different from others, but a lot of them are universal. So I wanted to speak to each of those and kind of bust the myths. And so that's where the Overcome Imposter Syndrome was born, from people just like you and me who are trying to do something amazing in the world and get held back sometimes by our own thoughts and feelings.
Absolutely. And I thought, well, what a great conversation to have, not only for my mastermind, but let's broaden that. Let's bring this to our audiences. Let's talk about self-esteem. Let's talk about building self-esteem. And because I think what people often assume is that because we're doing what we're doing, we don't have any fears. Because we're doing what we're doing, we must think very highly of ourselves all the time, and that we don't get offended. We don't have upper limits. We are always confident, and it takes doing it to understand, especially, for both of us in our shoes. You and I have very similar stories in that we're doing things in arenas where we kind of don't have necessarily like traditional credentials for. Like, we're literally putting ourselves out there in big ways, claiming knowledge in a space where neither one of you or I have a degree in.
Right. People, when I say, I do food heals, I teach people the healing power of nutrition. The first thing I hear is, well, are you a nutritionist? And I go, nope, I don't tell you what time to take your probiotic. I don't tell you what supplements to take. I'll tell you what's working for me. I'll tell you what's working for my guests. I'll interview people way smarter than me. I'll interview doctors way smarter than me. But I'm an expert because of all the knowledge that I've gained from doing my show for 7 years, from writing the book, from doing a documentary film, all of that. That's what's created the expertise that I have. But no, I do not have a degree in that. And that's okay. And that is freedom, right? There's actually a lot of freedom from being outside of a system that has a framework that people have to stay within. And without those parameters, you can actually have more interesting and informative and exploratory conversations, in my opinion.
I agree on this side of it. However, before I kind of claimed this, and you were actually at my very first live event where I did step into the room and say, as a personal trainer turned empowerment strategist, I was like, so here I am, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And and I said, I'm not an expert in law of attraction. And I don't know if you remember the response. I had a few people that went, yes, you are. And I was like, well,
agreed, 100%. Yes, you are. We're not worthy.
Well, but where is there a certification or anything that says someone is an expert in law of attraction, except in the fact that people see that you're using it, having results, and you're getting what you're wanting, and you're moving through things in a, I don't know, in a productive way, it works kind of way. So I even patted myself. And so I wanted to have this conversation in a broader way with Allison to share with all of you, because let's speak about my mastermind for a second. I have several people in there who are getting so tripped up about not, even though they are more credentialed in ways than we are, right, in certain areas, but they have this imposter syndrome. And yes, it's stopping them from their business. But I think that people have imposter syndrome in life, in terms of dating, in terms of worth, of like, I can buy a house, or I can treat myself well. I just got off a client call with a cancer patient I've been working with. And even she, when we first started a year ago, she makes tons of money. She's in a very successful biotech company, and she's probably listening to this, so shout out to you, know who you are. So she wasn't giving to herself. She wouldn't spend money on herself. She was cheap to herself. And in the last year of working with me and working together, like, that's one of the things that now she can claim. No, I now value myself enough to take the money that I earn very well and spend it on myself. And I don't have any guilt about it. In fact, I really enjoy everything that I'm doing. But when we're looking at, for me, looking at health concerns of people, let's say with cancer, because I'm working with a lot of cancer patients, and that idea of, I'm always about other people, and my job is to give to others. My job is to support others. And what happens is they lose themselves. So of course, because we're the example of what we think about ourselves. When the world doesn't treat you the way you'd like it to, the only person you can look at is yourself in the mirror to say, what am I not doing? Why do I not feel worthy enough? Why don't I have self-esteem to ask for what I want or feel like I deserve to get it?
Yeah, I see that all of the time. And I think one of the missing components, and you know this, I know this, but it just needs to be said, is a lot of times when we are dealing with disease, as well as reaching upper limits and not being able to expand into who we're meant to be in this world, it's very often unhealed emotions within ourselves. And we're not dealing with those. We're not looking at those traumas, and we're not looking at those things that are holding us back from our greatness, such as, well, I have to do this because society says I do, or I have to do this because that's what mama taught me to do when it comes to the people pleasing, or I have to support my family first. I have to put them first. Well, absolutely, but you have to put yourself first or you're going to die. You're not going to make it, right? You're not going to be able to make the food if you're in bed, unable to get up. And so it's really just all about identifying what are those things within us, identifying who are we, what are the standards we live by, why are we that way, what are the misbeliefs that we've held for so long, and how can we reframe them and overcome them so we actually can expand in our life, get rid of disease, get rid of chronic fatigue, step into our power as a messenger for what it is we want to share. That's what you did starting the podcast. That's what I did starting the podcast. That's what we do as podcasters. We pick up a mic and we have our voice. That's what a lot of creatives do with video and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, it's just like, okay, what are the steps that I took that I can help other people do? And what are the steps that I'm still learning? Because I think we're always on this journey of learning step by step. How can we expand even more and let go of even more? I love letting go. I love forgiveness. I love identifying a misbelief or identifying a trauma. Oh, forgot about that one. Thought I worked on that one. We got more to do. And so I love sharing those tactics with people. And I know you do as well. And so together, I just know there's so much that we can help others do, and we can learn ourselves. I learn from you all the time, every time. You sent me 2 shows recently, and I was like, I had to pull over. I was like, all right, you're not taking notes, so put it in the phone. Like, okay, what did she just say? Repeat, rewind. So I love learning that kind of thing as well.
Thank you. You're one of the few podcasters whose show I listen to also. So I love learning and what you bring to the table and your point of view. And, I think what people don't, again, I think there's a lot of assumption that happens in both of our communities and in the world that because we are doing what we're doing, we both make a living at what we're doing. We've been doing it now. I've been podcasting for 8 years. I started my show in 2014. I think you started in 2015.
Yep.
And people will say, well, I can't do what you do. Or, I hear often, well, I don't have a lot of self-esteem. And I keep thinking to myself, what does that mean exactly? That you don't like yourself, you don't believe in yourself. And some of that, it's like, how does someone get over that? And I would like to speak to, I will say up front that yes, definitely your core wounds and the way you were raised and the examples of people in front of you. Although I'll tell you, I know my uncle, his dad maybe started a CPA firm and maybe he took it over or something. But I think, I could be wrong because I don't talk to a lot of them anymore, but I think I'm the only entrepreneur in my entire family.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. So and I'm the only one that moved 3,000 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there are people who just sort of are pioneers or they're risk takers or whatever, but that doesn't mean that no matter what your story is, you can't build your self-esteem to a new level. I see it all the time. I see it every year with clients. I see it every year with my mastermind. I see it with us as podcasters, how we keep stepping out and growing things how I've grown just in my show from where I started to where I am now. I mean, I would never have guessed in a million years I'd be doing what I'm doing now. Or talking about or allowing myself to claim the expertise or the things that I'm doing right now in the world. And it's not because I necessarily think I'm the best qualified. It's because the work I'm doing keeps showing me that people are getting results. And we'll go into that later. But I would love to hear a little bit about some of how you think you built more self-esteem, and maybe take us back to before you started the podcast and then some key parts along your journey in podcasting.
Yeah. And I think cultivating confidence goes along with a lot of other things that you talk about, that I talk about, like dealing with our traumas. So I won't have time to get super deep into that because that would be a whole other show, but I'll try to walk you through some of the times where I think I busted through some upper limits, or some times where I think the old me would have held back and the newer me with a little bit more confidence was able to step forward. And I'm still working on that. To your point, like, yeah, if you think this is easy for us, it's not. It's certainly a journey. It gets easier over time as you do more, as you practice, as you grow, but it's not easy. And so I don't want anyone to think, well, it's easy for them, so I can't do it. That's not the case. Like, we're all taking risks here. And for some reason, I've actually been a big risk taker my whole life, but that doesn't mean I don't operate out of fear a lot of times at the same time. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. So I'll tell you a couple of stories, but essentially my journey was, I lost both of my parents to cancer, which instilled in me this passion for health and wellness, because I was like, why did Western medicine fail them? How can we approach health from a different perspective? What is the mind, body, spirit connection? I started asking all of these questions to myself, picking up books. This is pre-YouTube and pre-Instagram and all of the things that we now have at our fingertips where everyone's a health coach, but that didn't exist when this was all going on. So I just had some old dusty books and a drive to find out more, moved to LA and started meeting people who had really incredible stories to share about overcoming different health challenges, chronic degenerative diseases, all through things like juice fasting and eating a vegan diet and healing emotional wounds. And that's something that JJ, you specialize in. But when I started this, that was barely talked about. It was food is everything. Food has the power to kill us or heal us. And so taking the next step and going emotions, spirituality, that was a big leap for me, because I was like, all right, I got it figured out. Food is it. And that's what I preached for a long time to everyone who would listen, right? And then I had to take the leap and go, wait, you've learned a lot, you're teaching a lot, but oh my gosh, what about the emotions? Have you dealt with the fact that you lost your parents? Have you dealt with that trauma? Because all these people that you're interviewing are telling you stories about the nutrition, but they're also usually telling, hey, I had to divorce my husband, or I had to get over the fact that something terrible happened to me as a child. And so I had to go, all right, what is the next step in this? And learn that it is a holistic mind, body, spirit approach. And before I even started the podcast, I'm learning all of this, but I didn't know how to develop the knowledge, and I didn't know how to do YouTube or know how to do anything online. I just knew I have a passion for this. So I had a film production company, and it was in society's terms, it was successful because, I had clients, I made money, I did good work, had a team. No one would leave this position in a normal, but I was all of a sudden after, I did this for 15 years of doing this. I was so unfulfilled. I was like, I have to talk about nutrition. I have to talk about mind, body, spirit, medicine. And I went to a therapist's office, and she literally said, I want to leave everything I've built and I want to create something else. And she was like, well, it sounds like you have it pretty good. Like, I don't know if you need to leave that. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. But she was speaking out of her own fear. I know you're shocked right now. You're like, that's bad therapist, right? So instead of being like, well, why? She was like, well, it sounds like you have it pretty good, because I did, right? But at the same time, I knew my heart and soul. I know you want to talk right now.
Well, I know, but because you're saying this is what I want. Yeah. Why is she arguing what you just said? This is what I want.
Right. And so a part of my journey, there's so many lessons along here. I hope I'm being succinct about it, but part of it is to stop outsourcing not only our health to other people and doctors, but also stop outsourcing our mindset and the way that we think to society and therapists and other people who are experts, until you realize you have to go within when it comes to your emotional, spiritual, mental, all of the health, right? So that was a part of the learning journey. And I had to take this leap. I had to just go, I'm going to start this podcast. I'm going to see what happens. And cut to, my story, but it's like, I never could have imagined what getting behind this microphone could have led to. I went from having a cool video production business that was no longer fulfilling me spiritually, that was no longer fulfilling my day. I was waking up dreading every day, to getting in front of a mic, interviewing amazing people who had incredible stories to share, which led to me writing a book, which led to me speaking on stages all across the United States and the world, like Australia, leading retreats in Italy, like all these things I didn't even imagine for myself, because I was hitting that upper limit of, well, you've kind of made it. Like you've done the career thing. You're doing a good job. Why would you change? Well, because I wasn't happy and I wasn't satisfied, and it served a purpose for a while. But if I hadn't made that leap, I would probably be so burnt out at this point, you know, it'd be 7 years later, and I'm completely burned out and miserable and unhealthy and unhappy. But I took that leap, and then I ended up shutting down that production company. And I'll still work here and there with small clients who want to do something, but it was so heavy and weighing so hard on me. And society said, keep that job. That's what you do. That's what you work up to, right? I had succeeded, but it was only success on a, you know, surface level basis. It wasn't successful in here. And not that I'm successful now, but I'm so much happier, and I'm reaching more people with the message that food heals, and that is fulfilling in itself. And had I not taken that leap, like I said, who knows where Allie would be? I'd be drinking way more wine than I drink now, right?
Well, you may not get an argument out of me on that one for right now, but when it comes to the self-esteem though, did you have doubts that you could do it? Did you have fear that you'd be judged and criticized? I mean, I remember, I think on a Podcast Paradise thread once, you might have gotten like your first negative comment or negative review. Do you remember?
Oh God.
And like, right. Because that's a lot of people, when it comes to self-esteem, they're afraid to do something because they're literally held back by what they think others are going to say. And I know that especially when we put yourself, when, you know, you and I and other people that put themselves out there in a bigger way, well, it's going to happen. I heard it said by one of my good friends years ago, 10% of the people will love you no matter what you do. Those are your diehard fans and or hopefully some family or people that you love and are close to. They'll love you no matter what you do. But 10% will hate you no matter what you do. There's nothing you're going to do to change their minds because it isn't about you. But you don't really learn that until you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we've gotten bad reviews since then. You know my story. I've been censored. I've been shut down. I've had hate emails. I've gotten horrible DMs. And does it hurt me? Yeah, but can I shake it off? I have to, because they literally say you haven't made it till you get your first bad review. And if you're not upsetting someone, you're probably not doing anything good in this world. And I'm not saying you have to go out there and be super polarizing or political or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, if you have a hater, it probably means that you're reaching a lot of people. And so let's celebrate that. But was that easy for me? No. So I look at this quote. It's a really good quote. It says, though, when you're thinking about, oh, what are people going to think of me? Those who matter don't mind. They're going to celebrate you, like you said, whatever. And those who mind don't matter. So your haters don't matter. Forgive and delete, block and bless. Goodbye. Now, is it easy the first time it happens? No. But do you develop thicker skin over time? Yes. And when you are able to, and I don't answer the haters, but I can answer them in my head and make a point, then I know I'm making an impact on the world, and I know my message matters. And so I think part of that confidence building is just brushing it off your shoulders and going, well, you're doing something that matters. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have someone mad at you right now. So pass the champagne.
I was looking for the latest hate comment that I got that I sent to you in text. Do you remember that?
Oh, no, I don't remember. Don't remind me.
Hilarious. So on the podcast, it becomes a safe world because completely safe, but you would, people resonate with you. They don't, they stay on, they like you, they get to know and like and trust you. Sometimes they leave because they disagree with you. Okay, fine. YouTube is a different beast. And I learned that, and I stopped saying it, although I do say it a lot, that when someone comes on that they're searching, I'll say, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes. This is my show. I am an empowerment strategist, not a host. So what that means is I'm going to talk. And then I ask the guests, so such and such, where can they find more of you in case they don't like me? And I say, if you don't like me, totally cool. You don't have to like me. I'm not here to try to get you to like me. But if you definitely don't like me and you want more of said person, then I, in the beginning of the show, ask that person where they can go find more of them. Do they have a YouTube channel? Do they have, more videos somewhere? And then it gets that out of the way, and it's actually decreased my comments by a lot.
I like that. It's a great strategy.
Well, because then it just diffuses people. And then I've got in the audience of my fans, like one person has written to me and said, will you stop saying that? Screw them all. Who cares? Stop saying that if they don't like you. Like, we don't care if they don't like you. And I said, thank you. Like, I could hear her love for me in there. And then I have other people that say, the more you say it, it really hits me. Like, I really shouldn't care what other people think about me. And so it really helps to reinforce in me that not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. Right. So it's funny that I've gotten mixed feedback, but there was one, and it was, so I have the timestamps. And for those of you that are on the video, and for that person who wrote this, I won't say your name. And I don't know if it's a man or a woman. Oh, I think it's a woman. Anyway, it was under, and you can all see it if you're here, it's under the Inner Child with Terry Real. And this person wrote, okay, this was at 3:13 p.m. on like a Friday or Saturday. This woman is completely nuts, totally self-absorbed. Why have a guest if you're just going to blather on about yourself? Bizarre. All right. Well, this person kept watching because 20 minutes later at 3:33, they wrote, thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability and honesty. I really respect you for it. Fantastic episode. I really learned a lot from this exchange. What a great guest. I just ordered his book. Thanks to both of you. Within
That is fascinating.
Right? And I was like, I had to Photoshop this or put it together, screenshot it, because it's proof of a lot of people, and this is what social media does to you, right? Like you get to be behind, like you wouldn't say half the shit you say on social media to people in their face. You would never stand in front of someone and abuse
Insult
them,
yeah.
right? And shame them. You wouldn't say that if they were standing right in front of you. But you put yourself out there and people get to hide behind their computers and hide behind their phones and behind their pictures, and they get to say mean things or they get to project. And that's what this really is. And so again, I understood this, but I thought it was hilarious that 20 minutes later, it went from she's nuts, me, to, oh my God, thank you so much for your vulnerability. A fantastic episode, right? Like in the same 20 minutes. And they didn't stop watching. Some people definitely start, get triggered, and then leave. Cool. Okay. But, but was I always able to handle this so well? Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. There would be times when this first started that I would cry. There would be times when this first started that it would really weigh on me and I would really carry it around with me for a long time. And it's really a reflection of what's wounded inside of me, right? But the more you understand yourself, the more you heal yourself, the more you understand people and what's really going on for them. And this dynamic of being out in the world, or not even being out in the world, just being in a family. People project shit all the time on you and it's not about you. But until we learn how to identify when it's about us versus it's not about us, then you keep basing your self-esteem on other people.
Yeah.
Which is dangerous.
It's so dangerous. And I used to do that. I remember high school and college, my opinion of myself was absolutely based on other people's thoughts about me. And when someone would say something, I would take it so far to heart. I'd be like, well, I am this, I am that. And that's just no way to live. And I look at that little girl and I give her even college was still a little girl, right? And I give her so much love. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't have any confidence. My confidence was based on how other people viewed me in their eyes. And that's a terrible way to live. So if you're an adult living that way, I just want to say, like, there's so much love on the other side if you can get yourself through that. And JJ and I are here to help you do that. Not that, I'm an expert because like to your point, JJ, like we are experts only because we've been through it and we've learned and we're here to share our journeys with others. But I think cultivating confidence is multifactorial and there's a lot of different tools and things that you can do to cultivate confidence. And it is a journey, just like the health journeys that we help people through. And it does take time. But once you're on the other side, God, it feels so much better to not give an F about what people think. And look, do comments still affect me? Of course. But can I get over it in a half hour where before it would be days, weeks, months, or years to get over it? Yes. I just got an email and she said, you're ruining your reputation. Like, it was awful. It really hurt me. And you know what I had to do? I had to sit on it for 30 minutes and reflect back. And then I really was able to recognize this is, just to your point, a projection. This is a reflection of who she is, unresolved things within herself and her beliefs. And it's not actually about me. And so instead of, I thought about, do I come back and do I write a heartfelt email? And I said, no, my energy would be better spent spreading the love and knowledge that I have in health wisdom, because I'm not going to win this argument and therefore I don't want to start one. And so most of my approach to when other people say things, especially online or on email or on DMs or in comments, is block and bless, forgive and delete. So yeah, she's blocked because the email she wrote me was in comment of a story I had talked about censorship and blah, blah, blah. And so she's now blocked from seeing my story. So she doesn't have anything to say anymore. And I can continue to speak my truth to the people who actually want to hear it. And I'm here for the people who love me. I'm not here for the people who don't. And I think you're the same way.
Well, what's hilarious in a way, in fact, on my YouTube channel, it's all YouTube. The YouTube channel had, when I was doing Fit to Love 6 days a week and I was doing cooking shows and the whole thing, I had a paleo banana bread, and someone came on and literally wrote, no, thank you. And I was like, okay, why would you spend the time? Just move on. Like, why would you, do you think I'm going to pull the video down because you wrote no thank you? Who
Right.
are
What is
you?
your purpose?
Doug and I did an episode on his show, Nice Guys on Business, last week. He was out of town. He called me, said, hey, can you jump on a call? Can you record with me today? I said, sure. And we get on, and he never edits anything. So, I mean, he presses record and we're talking about nothing. And I said, oh, is this banter all going on the show? He's like, of course. So then I finally said, so why am I on the show today? Oh, Strickland's on a date. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go through the interview. We talk about poop and boobs and all kinds of fun stuff and and health tests. And then we get to like a 28-minute mark. He says, okay. He goes, okay, babe, I have another question to ask you, but I'm gonna say, for those of you, we're getting to the 28-minute mark, and I know that's probably when a lot of our audience loses interest. And I said, hold on, how do you know that? Did somebody say, you know what, Doug and Strick, I listened to you at minute 27 and I was with you, and at 28 I was done.
Oh,
like,
that's
do
funny.
people actually say that? He goes, no, we probably don't know that. And I said, well, then maybe you need a new audience. Why? It's a random number of 28 minutes, 30-minute episodes. I go, if they, maybe you need to rethink. First of all, are they paying you? They're not.
Yeah.
So who cares? But it was a funny, and then a lot of his community thought that was funny, and they're like, I listened the whole way through. But we do make these, like, we put it out of context, and we forget, especially when you're out there, talking about things that you're interested in and things you want to share, going back to thinking of, like, again, self-esteem and how we put ourselves out there. And for those of you that are listening to this right now and are watching, I wanted to share this with you because I wanted you to know that everybody goes through it. And there's not a person in the world who doesn't, at times, even on a growth path, feel a lack of self-esteem or lack of confidence. When I took my business to, on one end, behind closed doors, like with Dr. Nation, when we had one of our conversations, and I was learning about how her doctors learned her terrain 10, but the 10th part of the terrain was the emotional piece. And it came out of me. I mean, I didn't even think about it. And I was like, no, me. Like, what are you teaching them to do? Like, that's what we do. That's what I do. That's what, and I kind of claimed that. Right. So I went and I claimed that. And then when she put me in front of everybody, I was like, I'm talking to doctors. I'm not a therapist, but yet I'm claiming that I know how to do this, which I do. But
Right.
It's the minute that you have that opportunity, like you've said, I'm good at this. And then someone like hands you, okay, go, you're good at this. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm upper limiting. So I want everyone out there to know that if it's leaving a relationship because you don't think you can get better than what you're in, leaving a job, or asking for, one of my clients right now in the mastermind, she's been in her job for 35 years. And when she joined the group, she said, you know why I joined this group? Because I wanted to break my patterns. So we all meet for the first retreat in Myrtle Beach, and we're listening to her, and we're trying to help her, like, start her side business, and listening to what she wants. And we're all kind of kindly suggesting that just for practice, maybe you want to make a new resume and just see what else is out there. You don't have to leave your job. You don't have to quit. No. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I love you, Linda. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Right. And then somewhere along the way, she did it. And it boosted her self-esteem to trust. I mean, she put herself out there. Then she was getting a lot of hits, and like, it's like dating. Like, all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be her friend. Everybody wanted a piece of her. And right. It really boosted her self-esteem because she broke that pattern and because she stretched into that. But there was a lot of resistance and fear from point A to point B. So whether it's a job that you don't feel you've outgrown, or a relationship that you've outgrown, or a way of being with yourself, the way you treat yourself. Okay, another big point, and maybe you can speak to this too. I see this all the time with people come to me, and they'll deal with one issue. They'll want all of it, but they'll focus on one, and they'll successfully get one thing. But then it's all the little sub issues that they may or may not be ready to deal with. And it may be I'm not the right person for them, which is totally cool. But I'll see people upper limit in ways of self-care. And self-care with exercise, with eating well, with taking care of their bodies. And it's all this, to me, and that's the word I come from. I come from the personal training, from the functional medicine, and now naturopathic, integrative oncology world of, like, self-care, and how you treat yourself is one of the first, I would say, not first self-esteem principles, but and that's why my first book, Fit to Love, was what it was. It was like, you want to attract the love of your life, which is really you, then your self-care routine is going to reflect how much you value you.
Yeah.
The action that you take is going to show others how you value you. So when people won't commit when they won't commit for longer than 30 days or longer than 2 weeks or longer than 10 days, and they do a short-term program, and then they shame themselves for not getting the result they think they should get, and they revert back to old behavior. It's like what's lacking, I think, is again that idea of self-esteem, that I don't love myself. I don't value myself enough to commit to being uncomfortable and to changing my habits to reflect the goals that I want, because I love myself enough to put the effort in.
Yeah. And I think what we do sometimes unconsciously is we're training people around us how to treat us based on how we treat ourselves. So it's like if you're in a relationship, or whether it's a friendship or personal relationship, or even with a client, if you're showing them, hey, I show up for myself first, and then I show up for you, that is confidence, and they're going to treat you a different way than if you put everything else first, everyone else first, you don't show up for yourself, you don't have self-care routines, then other people in your life see that, then that's how they're going to treat you, that you don't come first. And so I think it's very important. It goes beyond just going, oh, like I think self-care to a lot of people has become almost, what's the word? Almost like
Punishment?
something, well, not punishment, elitist. So it's like taking care of yourself. Self-care means, oh, I get a massage. No, self-care can just be like, I wake up and I meditate first before I go check on the kids, or before I go do the thing for the client that they're waiting on. It might be due, but I got to take care of me first. And I think it's become in our society today like this thing where we can't make time for ourselves because that is something to reward ourselves after a hard day's work in this hustle culture, right? And I want to turn that upside down and go, no, you take care of you first. And that is how you build everything else in your world with confidence and more effectively, in my opinion. I think in yours too. But I totally agree with you on that. And I think it's just the more we can put ourselves first, the less selfish we can actually become. Someone said to me, and I said this to someone, unfortunately, in my life, and I said, I do what I want, when I want, and I put myself first because that is how I can show up for you in the world. And he said, that is the most selfish thing I've ever heard. And I said, you're not hearing it and you don't understand it. And that's unfortunate. Again, a reflection, it's a projection, a reflection of something unresolved within inside him. There's nothing I can do about it except to move on and go, well, I'm here teaching you what I need to teach you, and I'm moving on, take it or leave it. But I'm here for the people that actually accept that about me and understand that and are doing the same thing for themselves too.
I want to bust the selfish myth for a second. So,
okay, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So people that take care of themselves, people that talk nice to themselves, people that do things for themselves, are not selfish. They're or if they are, or self-centered, we all are. In fact, people that call others selfish are the ones that are saying you're not behaving in the way that's pleasing to me. You're
so
not
who's
putting
the selfish one?
Right. Who's the selfish one? The one who's pointing the finger, telling you that they would like better behavior from you to make them feel better. I would like you to act on behalf of me. Okay, well, that's selfish. That's the definition of selfish. So we can't, like I talk about people pleasing and the addiction of people pleasing, and because people think, oh, but I'm a people pleaser, I'm a nice person. I said, you're a manipulator. Let's go over the manipulation of people pleasing. So you do things for other people. You put them first. Why? Because you want to try to control how they think about you and how they feel about you. And subconsciously, you're hoping that they're going to do the same thing for you, which is why most people get really mad when they've given and given and given to people, and then now they need help. And those people are not given, and they're not given the same way, and they're not given the same amount, and they're not given in the way that's meaningful to them, because it's this unspoken agreement that you think you're making by doing an act of service for somebody or loving them in whatever way you see as good, and then getting offended to think somehow that translated to, okay, now it's your turn when I need help. And so
Right.
this people pleasing thing is really an addiction to being a rescuer and then being the victim when that person doesn't act the way you want them to. So selfish and self-centered are the way we all are, period. You can't get away from it. You can only act from yourself. You can only see and be in your own body. You can't act for somebody else. You can't think for somebody else. You can't feel for somebody else. You can't interpret for somebody else. You are literally in your body as yourself, and that is it. So if you are not self-centered, if you are not selfish, then you have no idea what it means for you to be happy, how to get happy. You don't know you. You're not a master of you, because you end up manipulating other people to get validated. It's like, so I had a client today who, and love you too, you know who you are. I said to her, because she said, why do I always do this? Why do I want so badly for her to think I'm smart? And I said, what? So we went back to her core wounds, and core wounds were rejected, ignored, and dominated. And I said, okay, so in this situation, what's being triggered for you is that you've been rejected in the past, or you've interpreted that your mother rejected you. So, and you're desperately trying to feel and not get abandoned, and you feel fundamentally flawed using some of the upper limit stuff. And I said, so here's what I want you to think of, because it's always a mirror. Whatever you want from someone else is what you need to give to you. So I want you to visualize when you get this trigger feeling in your body. I want you to imagine that you're the drug addict and she's your dealer. So literally what you're doing is like, give it to me, tell me that I'm smart, validate me, please, right? Which of course diffused her in a second. She's like, okay, I get it. I was like, all right. So then we just have to flip the mirror around and say, what am I looking for her to give me that I'm not giving to myself? And so I just wanted to put that out there, because when it comes to building self-esteem, that's one of the first places you have to start. Because if you have laid down in front of others, you have put down what's the prostration? You've prostrated yourself in front of others to tell them to tell you who you are. Please show me my worth. Let me know if I'm valuable. You'll always lose.
Yeah. And I remember being younger and being kind of, there was a group of 3 girls that were kind of mean to me. And when I was older, and when I say older, I mean like high school, college, compared to middle school and below, I remember I was like, it's their fault that I don't have confidence because they told me I wasn't good enough. And I had this victim mentality, misbelief that I carried for way too long. And now, I mean, a little older, a little wiser, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was an opportunity to take my power back and go, my self-worth does not come from what anybody else has to say about me. It comes absolutely from within. So, you know, I have my little practices when I feel like I need to get into it before a big meeting or meeting someone new or whatever it might be, or doing a podcast episode with someone I feel is, you know, a big deal or something, whatever it might be. And so I have practices to cultivate more confidence, but it fundamentally is the realization that you have the power. I have the power. Like no one other single person in this world has any power or dominion over how I feel about myself but me. What's that Eleanor Roosevelt quote? You know what it is? It's I
was thinking of a Wayne Dyer quote.
Okay, what's that one?
Your opinion of me is none of my business.
That's Eleanor Roosevelt. Okay, so I think they're the same quote. Exactly. So you got it. Like, your opinion of me is none of my business. Now, does it hurt sometimes? Does it suck sometimes? Sure. We're not saying it doesn't. It doesn't roll off my back either. However, if I had that mentality, I would be miserable because a lot of people don't like me. So what am I going to do? Shut up? I'm not going to shut up. I'm only going to get louder. That's what happened when I got censored. I was like, I'm a rebel person. I'm like, oh, you want me to quiet down? You want me to shut up? Watch me get louder. And so I think that sometimes it can be fuel. Sometimes this, instead of us going, oh my God, I'm not good enough. This person said this horrible thing about me. They don't like me on YouTube. They said this girl's crazy. It's like, you want to see crazy? Watch me. Like, you know what I mean? If that's your definition of crazy, let me double down on how amazingly crazy I am, because I'm going to teach you a thing or two on this show. And you did. That's literally what you did without even meaning to, you know, because you didn't see the comment. You kept doing your show. And then she came along on the journey with you and went, oh, this is super valuable. Thank you both.
Right. Because I'm sure what I did was trigger. Well, again, and this is why I do it on YouTube. When people are listening to my show on my podcast, I know that they're there for me too. And again, they know that I'm not a host. I do solo shows. So it's not like every show I have a guest. I do solo shows. So, and I get a lot of feedback that they love solo shows. So I don't do a lot of them anymore because I have 2 other podcasts and a membership group where I do more of them. But so because I know that, and I put myself out into an arena of people who aren't looking for me, they're looking for my guests because they're a big deal. I know, so I don't take it personally, because I know if I was them too, I'd be frustrated. This person that I don't know is talking a lot. I'd be like, I just want to hear them, which is why now I say, where can they find more of you? Because if you don't like me, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I get it. You're frustrated. You're like, girl, shut up. Like, I just want to hear such and such. So, okay, go find them. This is my show, and you don't contribute to it in any way. So you have no say. So, and it's my conversation. Like, if it wasn't for me bringing you this free show, you wouldn't even have an opportunity to listen to so-and-so, because you can't call them up on the phone and be like, hey, you want to have a conversation? Can you school me? Like, I pay for this production. I do all the effort to put this out into the world. And so, you know, but at first, you know, most podcasters that I've seen and worked with, it's like asking permission. Oh my God, will they, you know, I don't have an audience, and I like, will they do me the favor of coming on my show? Now, at first, when you have no audience, it does feel like that. But as you grow quickly, you realize you have a platform of people who know, like, and trust you, and it's of value. And you have to, so I stopped bringing on people. You know, I mean, I have repeat guests on all the time because it's about relationship building. And I say no to most people that try to pitch me to be on the show, because it has to come from my journey, this conversation that we're having, which is why you and I are having this conversation right now, because what I'm seeing, the trend I'm seeing, the thing that keeps coming up. I just finished my Roadmap to Emotional Healing course, which deals with some of these core wound issues and being able to identify them, and then your patterns and how to break them and how to identify what your needs are. But past that, what I still keep seeing is confidence, 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 self-esteem, self-esteem, self-esteem. And I'm like, we got to talk about self-esteem, because I don't know that I have before. And I want to break that myth to people that they think, well, I did just decide, well, I don't have any self-esteem. Okay, well, do you want to have some? Because you can change it, and we can help you with that. In fact, what that conversation sort of stimulated was Allison and I kind of brainstorming about some ways we could teach you to do that, because we weren't going to be able to do it today on the show. So we're actually doing a free webinar, and we're going to invite you to it, called the 3 Ways to Build Self-Esteem. So we talked about building self-esteem today. Well, we're going to give you 3 ways, 3 steps, right, to build self-esteem. And you can implement these into your life. It's completely free to take this webinar with us. It will be recorded, and we will share it with you, although it may only be a 24-hour recording. But we just want to help you in a different format. We want to be with you. We want to have you there asking questions. We want to be able to answer the questions, and not like what we're doing right now is recording, and there's only going to be feedback in a comment below this video, or somewhere on a Facebook group that we have, or maybe someone's going to reach out and send a note. But we wanted to be able to help you, give you tangible tools to understand how to and why and what, like, where do I even start with building self-esteem?
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, if you're hesitant at all, this works for you, no matter who you are, no matter what you've been through, no matter what labels you put on yourself, like, oh, well, I'm an introvert, right? People think that I'm an extrovert. I am so introverted. I need so much downtime. Like, I need so much prep time before going out in the world. I know you're more of an extrovert, JJ. And so I just want to share that, like, you might think our energies are similar because we're just talking. We used to talk for hours, and we're so much fun, and I think we're a blast. But anyways, I'm still super introverted, and these same strategies will work for me, will work for you. And I'm also a rebel personality. You may not be a rebel personality. That's okay. You're a people pleaser. That's okay. These strategies will work for anyone. We're going to identify, okay, where are you? And then you can everyone can take these tools and use them in their own way. So that's why I wanted to share it, in case anyone's like, well, I don't know if it'll work for me. It will.
It's funny, because I actually want to do a show on introvert versus extrovert. One day somewhere I'm going to do it. I keep talking about it, but nonetheless, so I want to conclude, because this is a big topic, and I wanted to sort of scratch the surface with it. I just want to give a few little stories. Maybe you can share any that you have, like a big deal. For me, for those of you that don't know me, if you're listening to me on Food Heals or you're watching this on YouTube, I have a personal training background. And what I learned, but I have an actress background. I was an actress, a singer, a dancer. And what I've always really enjoyed doing is helping people I've always asked that conversation about the why. Why does someone do? Why do they react the way they react? Why do I feel the way I feel? I've always been that seeker. And it's led me down an emotional path, both from the point of view of when you're an actor, taking on someone else's point of view. That's what I love the most about acting, is that you get to leave your story. Right? You leave your life and you're in someone else's story. You get to look from a different point of view that you might not have. And that's super fun. It's also valuable if you can take the lessons from that. So between that and then learning astrology, and then with my clients, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, trying to save my marriage and learning all of these tools to do that. I would then, and again, I'm always learning and growing. Law of attraction, I would see how it worked for me and I'd want to help others. And to the point where the last 10 years, especially, I mean, yes, I was personal training my clients, but I was more interested in getting underneath the hood and helping them change how they felt about it, or getting to the wounds, or getting to the things. None of them cared. They didn't want to do any of that stuff. Right. So, so I didn't have an audience, which is why I started my show, because I just wanted to share all kinds of stuff and I needed an outlet to do that. So fast forward, I put my show out and now I'm getting, oh my God, this is amazing. It's changing my life. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Awesome. And now I'm like, okay, what else? I'm like, well, what do you mean what else? So I'm like, okay, I got to get these people in a room. I got to get them in on a Facebook group, and then started to work with them in this way, to the point where, so that was 2016 that went out. So now we're looking at 2018, and I've now just completed or just done my very first live event where I decided I was going to put the personal trainer part down. I would still do some of it. We still exercise. We still talked about food and nutrition, but I'm going to start adding in these coaching pieces. Now, I'm not even a certified coach by anybody else's standards. I've thought about many different programs, but every time I go to pull the trigger, I don't want to do it for some reason that I don't agree with something that they talk about. And I'm like, nah. And then I take material and I end up like rearranging it and teaching it in a different way that seems more effective. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do it my way because it seems to resonate and people seem to get it better than when I watch you teach it in a room full of people that are kind of glazing over, confused. Mm-hmm. So that's been my progression to the point where I now have my own certification. So, and I'm not a therapist. And definitely the very first time somebody, because I used to hear it in my house, I would be discredited because that would be threatening. If I'm right, then someone else has to do some work. So of course, let's just say you just don't know what you're doing and you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to me, even though I'll say, you're very smart with everybody else, but no, it doesn't apply to me. So here I am, doing therapy things, if you will, and I've been to plenty of therapists and I've had mostly not great experiences, but I had a few good experiences and one at the end that was really good. But I come out of this and I see like the matrix of the therapy model. And I'm like, God, people go for years and they just don't get anywhere. And they keep complaining about the same things. And so finally I just said, you know what, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to take these tools that have changed my life and I'm going to teach them to others. And so when I first got that first negative comment, JJ's not a therapist, that one hurt. Yeah. Because that was my fear. Yeah. But then after I sat with it, I'm like, and I'm so glad that I'm not, because I have to follow your goddamn rules that are so dumb to keep people in a story that keeps them victimized for years. So I was like, thank God, because there are a lot of rules. You said that, like all the bureaucracy, if you will, of staying. You said at the very beginning, the freedom that comes with not being credentialed, if you will, in certain ways, because then you can kind of operate in a more curious, and here's how I prove it way. Let me show you the data. Let me show you the science. Let me show you the research. Let me show you the books that talk about these things. I'm not just hiding behind a credential and giving you recommendations. I'm actually showing you where I got it from. And so for me, that was the first really hit me under the belt kind of comment, but it was such a blessing because it made me realize all the things that I do that are so much more impactful to some people, not to everybody. And it made me appreciate my approach uniquely that I didn't. So I've literally gone from personal trainer to empowerment strategist with my own certification, teaching others who want to do what I do. I can't teach them how to think like me in my brain, but I can teach them, some of the tools that I use, and it's super fun and it's so transformative. And yet, guys, I don't have a degree in any of this, right? But yet people Dr. Miriam Raha was on my show last week, and then we did a live, and she's a triple board certified physician. She's also a naturopathic. No, she's not naturopathic. She's triple board certified. She is an acupuncture medicine practitioner, and she is an Ayurvedic practitioner. And she must have said to me 3 times, you're brilliant. Like, you just realized what you just said is like, there's like 3 theses in that. Right. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I took it in, I took it in, and I'm like, I didn't need it. It felt good coming in though. I'm like, I know what I do works. I know that I'm not for everybody, but that's with everything. That's with what you do for a living. That's who you are in relationships. That's who you are in your workplace. That's who you are in your family. When you start to build your self-esteem, or when you want to change something about your life, you have to start with this piece. And it's not a 180. It's a process. But we want to help you get on the road to it. So, I've been able to do it. Allison's done it. She's gone from, kind of asking permission and then just blaring it out to the world. And now she's out there doing her thing, right? Because she knows what she knows. She knows who she's helped. She knows who she reaches. And because she has a few people that are naysayers, we're all going to, that are going to be threatened with the work that you're doing because it may make them look bad. Or because they think what you're really doing may make them obsolete also, right? There's all of that stuff that gets intertwined, but it's been our journey together, both of us. Neither one of us have a degree formally in what it is that we're necessarily doing, but we both have a very successful, committed, active audience with plenty of testimonials about transformation, change, freedom, health, healing, happiness, the things that you're all here searching for. So who cares where it comes from?
Yeah. And to your point, I think about this sometimes like, okay, I went to college, I got a degree in film production and communication studies. Do I consider myself an expert in that? Yeah. But half of the things that I learned back then are completely obsolete now. So the programs we used back then don't exist. Some of the things that we learned in film school, like never do a jump cut. YouTube is all jump cuts. Like everything I learned in film school is no longer existent. And so very often those credentials don't mean much after a certain amount of time has passed. So I'd rather work with someone like you who I found online, listened to your podcast, realized we were in alignment and I know, like, and trust you. I'd rather work with you. And it's the same with when it comes to anything that we're doing in the world. For example, like for me, it's like, people don't really come to me for nutrition advice, but they come to me for resources. And I've got better resources than their Western medicine trained doctor, because their Western medicine trained doctor is not schooled in nutrition. So I'm sending them the information that I'm getting, the scientific studies and the, nutritional supplements that work for certain diseases that come from my functional medicine doctors who are trained in a very different way. And so I guess the point is just that, to your point, like, what does a degree actually mean and what does it credential someone for? Now, for some things, I don't want my surgeon that's just an Instagram influencer, right?
Right.
But when it comes to health and wellness and taking care of ourselves, I want to speak to people like you. It comes to the psychology of who are you following online? Like I follow a woman who writes about narcissistic disorder because I want to learn more about what that is, because I've experienced it in my life and I'm able to recognize it faster now. I don't know if she has a degree. I don't care. What she said online absolutely resonated with me. I was like, oh, she gets it. This is what I went through. Oh my God, follow, learn more, right? Now, I'm a super fan of hers. Same with nutrition. Everyone that I follow is not a Juilliard trained whatever, or a master Michelin star restaurant chef, but gosh, they make really amazing vegan meals. That's what I follow, that I want to make myself. So I don't care where they went to school. I don't care what degree they had. I know they got their degree in the kitchen. Literally could care less. I know them. I like them. I trust them because they made me some good food that I was able to make at home and replicate. And so just to your point, it's like, we're saying this so you don't have to go get a 4-year, 6-year, 10-year degree right now to become the person that's speaking their truth online. You can just have gone through something. One more point. I'm not an expert in grief, but I'm an expert in grief. Right? So would you rather work with someone who's an expert in grief because they lost the same, you lost your parents, I lost my parents, you lost your sister, I lost whatever it is, and talk? Or would you rather have the credentialed person who's never gone through a fucking trauma in their life?
Yeah, no, I get it. And that was actually when like the first couples therapist we went 2 years ago. Yeah, that was my partner's point of view. You're not married. I'm out of here. Like, if you haven't had a marital spat, if you don't know what it's like to be with a partner that you've married and then you're having problems with, and again, whether that be right or wrong or short-sighted or not, because I chose someone specifically for a type of work, I had to respect that, if I don't feel like you can relate to me, that's going to be a disconnect from the beginning, regardless of what letters you have behind your name or lack of letters, right? Again, no disrespect for people, those of you that have degrees and things, all power to you. We're trying to tell people who, in fact, I asked my very first coach, do I need to get the coaching certificate? She said no. I asked my last therapist, do I need to get certified? She said no. Not that I needed them to tell me, but they both validated that, no, basically you are enough. You don't need to get any of these numbers, letters, or whatever credentials to validate. Although at one point as a personal trainer, I definitely wanted to get because people wouldn't listen to me. And boy, when you're 20 something years old and you have all this knowledge that you want to help people with who don't care to be helped, you like, if I just got the doctored little thing at the end, you'd listen to me because you listen to the other people. But no, but that's a different story altogether. So if we can help you, if this resonates at all with you, if you like to learn how to build more self-esteem than where you are now, to get more of what you want, more love, more happiness, more joy, more peace, more money, more exposure, more opportunities, whatever it may be. I wanted to share this because I didn't want to just bring Allison into my little mastermind group to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome when it comes to building a business, because this conversation deserves a bigger platform for those of you that just want to feel better about yourselves in the world, regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm so glad to have this conversation with you today. I know we're going to have lots more in the future, so that's exciting for me.
So for those of you that aren't watching this, but you're listening, the link is jjflizanes.com/self-esteem. So the webinar is going to be on Thursday. I'm just going to pull it up right now. Thursday, August 18th at 5 p.m. Making a lot of noise with my microphone. Okay. 5 p.m. Pacific time. And I heard Lily in the back. Okay. She really wants you to let her out.
Well, I have a dog staying here, and it's so sad because the owner is in the process of losing someone, and so I have felt so bad that I had to keep them today. But they want to hang, but there's nothing I could do on the days that I'm filming and recording. I'm like, I have an extra dog that I wouldn't have planned on having, but I have to respect that they're going through something real hard. So I apologize for any doggy noises today. Normally I wouldn't have them, but I had to keep her so that she could bury her father, basically.
You know, well, again, we're not trying to be, there's no put on a show of perfectionism. Here's life. Welcome to
I got my ring lights, but I got my dog. So
yeah. And if the dogs, you know, were enough for you to stop listening, then this is not resonating and it's cool. Move on. All right. So Thursday, August 18th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, jjflizanes.com/self-esteem. The link is below the video. The link is in the show notes for this episode. And we'd love to see you there. We're going to talk about the 3 ways to build self-esteem. So if this is something you struggle with, please make it there. Please sign up. Again, there will be a replay for about 24 hours after, but we'd love to see you there. So thanks, everybody. And we're wishing you, of course, on this journey every time, like little by little, continuing to value yourself more and more so that you can claim to yourself that you do have very healthy, good self-esteem.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, JJ.